We're gonna turn the heat off right now and hopefully we'll be able to see it. Look at that, spins very quickly and then oh, look at that, it's closed. Okay, so that's pretty magical. Now let's see if we can turn it back on. Look, it spins very, very quickly back to the on position. Okay, so this thing right here that sits on top of the zone valve, just like we saw, but without a bunch of crap on top of it in the hallway. This is a zone valve, just like I pointed out in the hallway heater. This belongs to me. It is not strata common property. I could easily open and close this valve manually if I so chose. I could affix a hamster in a wheel with a series of gears and maybe a drivetrain to open and close this zone valve, which is strata common property. I could use whatever means I want to open and close this zone valve. But the means sits on top of the strata common property. It does not at all form a part of the heating system, right? It is simply a convenient mechanism I have chosen to use to open and close my zone valve. This is all totally my responsibility. And also, if you look at it, you'll notice that it is rather mechanically complex. It has a lot of moving parts. First of all, it has a small single-phase motor right here, which can, of course, fail. And then also, you can't really see it easily because it's encased in, it's a very hot little metal thing. However, in here, there is a series of gears to provide enough mechanical advantage for this little wimpy motor to... oh, baby, don't put your foot there. It's hot. For this little wimpy motor to open and close this zone valve, right? Because it needs a fair amount of force. So this, basically, you've got this motor, you've got this gearbox, and together they control, and this is Maxwell property. This is not strata property. Together they control this zone valve, which is strata property. And as we saw in the hallway, that can be manually controlled if I want to. I could take all this stuff off and just put a little, knob on there. And when I want heat, open it up. When I don't want heat, close it up. If I want a little bit of heat, just open it a little. If I want a lot more heat, open it more, and that'll increase or decrease the flow. And I have lived in places that had such a system where the loop circulated, and then each heat register was basically its own zone, and you would just open or close the flow of hot water manually. In this case, we have this fancy motor sitting on top of our zone valve. Again, if an owner says, my heat's not working, this right here, this zone valve that is strata property, strata responsibility, 2 parts, right? Like one moving part or 2 moving parts, right? You have the fixed part, then you have the part that turns in it. So really one moving part. One moving part, extremely mechanically simple. It's just like a tap, right? Open, close. Very, very, very unlikely to fail. I mean, how often do you see one of those little hand taps fail? Almost never. I've seen those hand taps in use for 70 years and they still aren't done. So very unlikely to fail, strata responsibility. Complicated electrical wizardry up here. It's got a motor, it's got a gearbox full of tiny little plastic gears that can break. The teeth can get chipped, whatever. And again, the motor, you could have failure of insulation, or any number of things can go wrong with a single-phase motor. I can't stand single-phase motors. So that can break very easily. So if an an owner complains about their zone not working, it's probably this very mechanically and electromechanically complex device that they own that is sitting on top of the very, very simple device that Strata owns. So, like, I would really, if I were calling it, I would say that it's probably like a 98% chance that this complicated stuff fails, before, probably even 99% chance that this fails long before this very simple piece that is part of the Strata heating loop system fails. Which is why, if an owner complains, the logical thing to do is to tell them, okay, it's probably this, right? It doesn't have to be this. Like you saw how this spun up and down. It could have also, if my thermostat, which is, again, a complicated device, plenty of things that can go wrong on those are usually digital, right? So millions of things can go wrong with digital things. If that failed, then this would never spin open or closed, and the owner would probably complain, oh, my heating doesn't work. Well, it could be the thermostat, which is the owner's device, owner's issue, or it could be this motor that sits on top of the zone valve, right? Both those things are complex devices, very likely to fail. Or there's like a very, very infinitesimally small chance it could be this basically like a screw tap device, which is a zone valve, which is Strata property. There's a very tiny chance it could be that, because it is just such a simple device. I can't drive that home enough. It is a tap. So it behooves us, if an owner complains, it's like a 99.9% chance it's this stuff or their thermostat, which is totally isolated in their unit, has nothing to do with Strata at all. Again, they could just manually open and close this if they wanted to. So they should call a contractor of their choosing, have them look at it, and in the very, very unlikely possibility that it is indeed this piece that needs replacing, Strata would gladly pay the bill for that, I'm sure. But it's very, very, very unlikely. And if an owner did claim that, these can't be repaired. This is the kind of thing, it's a cheap fitting. Well, I don't know how much it costs, but I know it can't be that expensive. It's pretty simple. It's a cheap fitting, you just replace it. So if an owner was trying to claim that it was, oh, it was my zone valve, it was probably this stuff. And the plumber didn't want to try to explain it to a layman. So we would simply send a couple Strata members in to check. And if this looked like it was indeed 50 years old like the rest of the building, it would, we'd probably deny them, because that's, that's what we're responsible for as Strata, not this crazy stuff here. So I hope that cleared it up. If there's any other questions, I could make another video, but I'm going to shoot this off, post it on YouTube, link it up in the email, or send it out by some other means, so that hopefully we can all get a bit more of an understanding of how the zone heating system works, what a zone valve actually is, how it can be manually opened or closed, or open and closed using a little motor and a thermostat that is totally within the unit, has nothing at all to do with Strata. And how, because these are so close together, that can be some confusion for some people. They just seem to think that this whole thing is a zone valve. When this is a zone valve, this is a motor that opens and closes it, totally optional. And this unit actually, like, see this, I mean, this whole little boxed in unit, I took the cover off it here. This whole unit, they basically just, it's 4 screws and they just pop off and you can pop another one on. It's a very quick, simple replacement, and there's several videos on YouTube illustrating exactly how to do that. And you literally, if you pop this off, I'm not going to pop mine off because that's a lot of work. Well, it's not even a lot of work. I just don't want to mess with it because I don't have to. It's 4 screws. I mean, I could definitely do it. But if you pop this device off, you just pop a new one on. Like that little stem that we saw out in the hallway here that I showed you earlier, that little stem is will be found just under this, and it'll go up and then, engage with the gearbox, and the gearbox will be run by the little motor. So yeah, that's about it. That's all you need to know pretty much about zone valve heating systems to understand what is Strata's responsibility and forms part of the common heating loop, and interacts potentially with like the heating loop and other units, etc. And what is absolutely has nothing to do with the Strata, which is the opening and closing device of their choosing, which, like I said, doesn't have to be a motor. Could be a hamster and a wheel. Could be a, just a little screw thing that you open and close manually like we have in the hallways. Infinite options. So yeah, there you go.